Oh, yes. Good morning and good afternoon, as the case may be. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to turn off my video just so you see my screen. Everyone see my screen okay? Sinead, you
All
can see
good.
the Ricky? All right, perfect. So welcome to the February 2025 upgrade for Smart Simple Cloud. This is our first upgrade of the year, and everything I'm going to talk about is going to be right here on wiki.smartsimple.com. Go to upgrades. And this will show you the upgrade page, which tells you all about what's changing in the system and even the service packs and things like that. For our people in North America, which we call the key release, these are people on shared servers. The upgrade will go live on February the 13th. And the backups will have already been updated. The people are people outside of North America or managed dedicated servers. They are going to be released 2 weeks later. If you're not sure what your version you're on, I'll show you real quick just for fun. If you come into your system and you go to support as a global administrator, you can see here where it says the version. So 2025 is the year, 02, so that's February, it's the month, and 01 is the first package of February. So if you were curious and you went on the backup, you could check that out to see if it's been applied yet for you. As Sinead said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through all the things that are in this upgrade. While we're doing that, just start posting your questions in the chat, and then I'll take more time to go on a bit of a deeper dive on whatever you want us to talk about more. All right, so first thing is a 5-minute video here. Just goes over the highlights, just like this kind of narrates some of the highlights. But I'm going to jump into a little more detail, starting with our global system upgrades. And these are things that are going to happen automatically and may affect all users. So I always put these first, just so you're aware of any kind of changes that you're going to see. And then I go through the things that are much more shiny or fun, or the things that you can opt into. So let's start with the smart folder interface. So I'm going to jump in here and like I said, do put those questions in. We really love the engagement. Um, and we want to answer these questions. That's the whole point of this, is to let you know what's coming, and kind of give you a deeper dive into it. So here's the new Smart Folder interface. We did introduce this a little while ago in this release. We're turning that on for everyone. So folders, or your smart folders are here. Configuration folders are down here. These are the system folders. Those are your configuration folders. The functionality is still there, the same. The interfaces have been improved. Um, and temporarily, if you really want to, you can still go back and use the classic interface, but this toggle will be removed shortly, probably in the next upgrade. So anyway, just want everyone to know the new interface will be enabled for everybody, so they can all start using it for the smart folders. But you do have a temporary ability to go back to classic. And do let us know if you find anything or if you have any thoughts on this, because we will, like I said, we will be deprecating that classic version of this in a future upgrade. The next thing I want to talk about is our rich text editor. So again, we introduced this, I believe, in the last upgrade or the one before, where we have a new rich text editor, and it was opt-in at that point. In this upgrade, the new rich text editor will be enabled for everybody. The settings up here, the options up here are a little bit different, and we have to do this for security, for enhanced security on the platform. That's why we're switching over to this newer one. Although, arguably, the interface is a little more streamlined, a little nicer. Um, so this will be turned on for everyone. You'll see this for example, here, the rich text field, but you'll also see this if you're generating an email and some areas of configuration with this in the system, these are where you might find that rich text editor. The next thing I want to draw your attention to is the contact lookup. Specifically when we're talking about associating a user with, let's say, a grant or something similar to that. So here I've got a grant application sample, a grant application, and I want to attach someone as a user associated, maybe they're going to be associated as an applicant or a reviewer or something related to this grant application. So what I could do is I could come here and I type in and I select myself, and then I would add myself in a specific role. Um, so previously to the upgrade, where I was typing here and that list view that showed, that would show from it would use the global lookup list view to show that. Whereas this, if I clicked on this binoculars here, it would give me a different one. So there was a bit of confusion we heard from clients, whereas why am I getting two different list views when I'm looking up somebody? So in this upgrade, what we're doing is we've made it consistent. So the list view you get here will be the same list view that gets displayed when you click here for the lookup. And I'll show you where that is. So previously, one of them was if I went to global settings and users, I had the lookup list views here, and that's where you would set the one that where I typed originally. But now when I'm inside the UTA, I'll go back to my UTA for a second. So now when I'm in the UTA, what it's going to use is the same one as the binoculars, which was um, sorry, it's on the standard field. Give me a second there, contacts. So on the standard field contacts, when I'm adding a contact to this record, I have the option here to pick the lookup list view. So whatever I pick here for that lookup list view, that's what the list view that's going to be used when I'm searching within that UTA for a user, and that's also what's going to be used when I click that binocular icon to search for that user to add them. I'm just going to belabor this a little bit more just to make sure we've got. I just want to dive a little deeper into it. So as you saw here, I add the contact from the left navigation. We have an option called the link record list where if I don't want to do it from the left navigation, I can put it in line. So for example, here I can add contacts in line. I can put that wherever I want within my application process. And again, it will also be standardized here where the lookup list view gets used here and for the binoculars be the same thing. The difference between these two, if I look at this field, and you can see it's a special linked record list is the type of field it is. And I chose that I want to show contacts in here and add them. The difference here is that the lookup list view it uses will be specific to this field. So again, if I wanted to have, so if I'm trying to add, say, co-applicants here, or maybe I don't know, executive sponsor or something like that, I could have a separate lookup that only looks up those executive sponsors and only shows those executive sponsors as opposed to showing everybody in here. Okay, so the big thing to take away from this is that these two will be consistent now, and I've kind of walked through where you can go to set that up. The next thing I want to talk about is indexing your pages. So, and what I mean by that is when I go to Google, let's say, and I'm searching for a page, whether or not I want my login page, my sign up page, my template page to actually show up in those results. So if I go into a login page here, so here I am, and I go into a login page, you'll notice in this upgrade, there's a new setting here called index page and search engine results. And what this means is by default, what we're going to do is we won't be indexing the login pages, the sign up pages, the template pages. You're going to have to opt in. So if you want this to be seen, picked up by bots that are looking over the internet for pages, you would turn this on, and then you would be able to see it. If you leave it off, those won't be by default indexed. And essentially what we're doing here, and I could show you in a second if you want, or in the Q&A, we're adding a robots tag when telling the search engines not to follow and not to index the page. So by default, that's going to be our stance. Of course, if you want it to show up, then you can just turn it on. All right, so now let's go to the more shiny things. I want to talk about I'll show it from here for a second. I want to show about reCAPTCHA. So reCAPTCHA, again, this is something to help mitigate bots and kind of malicious traffic. You know, any form you put up on the internet, you know, there will be bots that will try and fill that in. And obviously you don't want all of your forms to be filled in. You don't want that kind of spam coming into your system. So we use Google reCAPTCHA as one of the methods to kind of mitigate that. In this upgrade, we're offering version 3 as an opt-in. And let me explain what that is first. So if I go to security and I come down here, and do put those questions in, I'll answer or explain it. I know I go a bit quick, so my apologies. But I went to global settings security, and down here we have options for CAPTCHA. So almost all of our clients are using Google reCAPTCHA 2. That's the one where, you know, when you fill in the form, you get a checkbox and you check it and say, I am not a robot, and then it lets you through. Version 3 is the new version, which you can now opt into. And this one's a seamless experience. So there's no checkbox to check. There's nothing to interact with. we just show a badge on the page, as I showed here. You see this badge, it says it's protected, and the person can just go through. What's happening in the background is Google is kind of checking your behavior to see if you're acting like a human. Are you I don't want to go into the criteria of how, but they can kind of tell if you're doing things like a human, the way you're typing, and then from that they can just say, well, this seems like a human, we'll let them through, as opposed to an automated bot that was filling in these forms. So again, if you want to, you can opt into version 3. If not, you can stick with version 2. If you're wondering about this alternate CAPTCHA, that's an option that we use for jurisdictions that may not be able to get it to Google. So again, comes from Google, so there is a bit of communication between the Google server just to kind of authenticate, I guess, that you are not a robot. Some jurisdictions, such as maybe China, they may not allow people to go out to the Google server, in which case they wouldn't be able to gain access. So what I've done here is I've put China in to use the alternate, which doesn't do that communication. I guess the last thing, if I hadn't said it already, the other difference between these, first of all, the version 3 is seamless. I would say that the version 2 is a bit more accurate at kind of mitigating those kind of spam. So again, it's kind of a personal choice or an option to you whether you want to remove any kind of usability hurdles with no interaction, or you want maybe a bit more robust mitigation of how many bots are filling in things. The next thing I want to show you is our new header. So this is a beta, and we're gonna turn it on. Like, you can turn it on, but I would recommend, if you're gonna turn it on, you kind of turn it on in your backup until it's production ready. But we wanted to get it in your hand so you kind of kick the tires and provide us with some feedback on what you think. So here's the existing header, and I'm just gonna switch it over to the way you can do the same thing. So you would enable the new header experience, and you save it. Let me just refresh the page, and there's my new header experience now. So the new header experience, a few things about it. It's a little more streamlined. Instead of having, and I can show you before and after here, instead of having all these icons up here, we've kind of reduced the amount of icons that are up here. We've kind of reorganized it a bit. So I have my menu icon, which are all the things that I have role permission to see, I've chosen to see in here. There's a new icon here for global administrators. So only global administrators would see this, and we'll only show them the things that are only available to the global administrators. So, if I want to go to global settings and do some configuration, that would be in here. Whereas if I wanted to do something like, check out my applications or my modules, they're here. Some of my other tools, I might have role-based permissions here. And then the last thing is the user menu. And on the user menu, instead of having the language switcher up here, for example, the language switcher is down here. If I want to change my organization I'm associated with, for example, it is down here. So kind of the user things are all in here, the role-based permission things are all in here, and the global settings things for system administrators are all under this icon. One other thing, I don't have enough links to show it to here, but previously, if you had a lot of links up here and a smaller screen, you had to scroll left to right within that header. That has been replaced with kind of a drop-down mechanism if there isn't enough space for all the links that you've created up in your header. So again, you can turn this on in your backup, kind of let us know what you think about the streamlined header. And oh yeah, also I forgot to mention, there's a new accent color up here as well. So to kind of bring that attention to those icons. So really interested to see what you think. The next thing I'm going to show you is a new tool, which is a new replacement. Well, not really replacement. It's a new tool for T2P, which means test to production. So this is only available for our dedicated clients. But the whole idea is if you have a multiple environments, so I've got a testing environment, I've got maybe I've got a dev environment and a production environment. Some of our clients will make changes on that dev environment, and when they're happy with them, they'll promote those changes up to the next environment and then promote those changes again. So there's a desktop tool that's used for this right now, but what we've introduced is a new online built-in feature within the system to kind of gather all those configuration changes you're making and then allow you to easily promote those up to kind of production and apply those. And one of the big parts about it is you can do this on a project by project basis. So with a desktop tool right now, you're kind of comparing tables and moving things over. With this one, yeah, let me show you how it works actually. Make it a little bit easier. So the first thing I'm going to do, unfortunately, I have to turn off this header temporarily. Whoops. Um, Show this part. So let me just do that. And again, this is a beta feature. We're working on it now. We're just letting you see it now so you can kind of understand how the UI works and how the process works while we finish off all the functionality before it becomes production ready. So as a user, what I would do is I come in here and I'm going to go to my personal settings um, and I would say I want to start recording my configuration changes. So I'd say, okay, boom. And now I can see my headers changed here and I can see that any changes I make to configuration are being saved and they're being saved in what I've defined as Project Alpha. So I could have multiple teams in here making changes to the configuration and those will be recorded and then I can send those up. So now if I went in, I'll just go into a field, random field here, custom field, sure. And I'll make a change to that. So now I've made a change to a configuration. That change has now been recorded against this project. And now if I wanted to, I can go in to here, I can select that project and I can look at all the changes that I made against this project. And I've made a lot. And then I can export those. So I can pick which environment they're going to go to, and it's going to grab all those changes to those settings pages and move them over to the other server, to the production server. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. But I can dive deeper into it for those that are interested. Um, Again, it is a beta feature, so we're still testing out all the functionality and still making minor changes, but that's the essential kind of UI and the work to get to there. The next thing I want to show you is a new option to kind of transfer files between multiple file upload fields. Now, there's a few scenarios where this come in handy, but one of the primary ones is for our clients that are using data exchange. So we have clients that are exchanging data between two systems. Maybe they've got one system and then they need to switch it to another system. And inside that package, those packages can get really large. It typically is used in our insurance markets and some other places. And so what we've done is we've added this ability that if I have a file in here and I don't want it in this field anymore because I don't want it included in the package, I can just click this and click the button here and I can move it to another field. Now I've set this up for manual, but you can also do it automatically. And so I just click the button and boom, it gets moved down here. So it went from upload field 1 to upload field 2, as simple as that. And we're probably going to extend this eventually so that the single file upload fields could move into a multi-file upload field. But it really allows you to kind of move files between these fields. So I'll just show you real quick kind of the settings on this. So again, this is for the multi-file upload field right now. And if I come all the way down here, not for media library, it's only for the regular one. And you can say I chose to enable a manual and I picked which field I can move that file to. And then of course there's a role permission. So I don't want everyone to have this ability. I can pick who has this ability and where they can put it. And if there's multiple options where it can go, I get a drop down where I get to pick which field I want to move it to. I also have the ability instead to do it automatically. So maybe after a certain amount of days or based on some other criteria, I can move those files from this one field into another kind of holding field. So again, there's just new options for the multi-file upload. The next thing again, and this one's more for our system administrators, especially those that work in multiple languages. So we've introduced a new setting, and I'll show you where that is right now. Right here, called supported configuration languages. So if you've ever had to enter translations into your system, when I go to a custom field, for example, and if I want to enter that translation there, I have to pick the language that I want to work in, I want to translate in from that list. And there's about 187 languages in the list currently. So what this does is this allows you to kind of filter that list. So if you know you only ever work in 4 languages, when you go to configure the system and add a translation or change a translation, we just won't show them for you. We'll just show you the 4 that you want to work in. So I'll just show you how that looks real quick. So this doesn't affect the kind of the front end or the languages that the client sees. This is more for the system administrator. So if I come in to say a custom field and I pick this one and I want to add a translation to this one, instead of seeing 187 languages in here, I see the four I've picked. So, and just a nice little quality of life change here. Um, the next thing I want to draw your attention to is what we call the high visibility area. Um, and again, this is a small change, but I think it's one some people will appreciate. So right up here, this is what we call the high visibility area. So for example, I've got this. I can hide the instructions and show the instructions. I can add it to a smart card. I can go into a dock mode, which is over here, where I can see stuff on this side. Now, some of the stuff, you may want, or maybe your internal people want, but maybe your applicant coming in, you don't want to show it to them, right? You don't want to kind of clutter up the interface with that. That's fine. So, for example, if I want to hide dock mode in this release, I can do that. I can also hide these already, but dock mode is one of the newer ones. So I can come in here to global settings, uh, security, system feature permissions, and I can go into, let's say, dock mode, and I can just say it on, deny it. I don't want anyone to see dock mode. I don't want people to have it, or maybe I don't want the applicant to see it because I want to keep their interface as clean and simple as possible. So again, I just want to highlight that we've added that for dock mode. The other ones, there are ways of turning all the other ones off already. So if you don't want that high visibility area, you don't have to have it. Okay. The next thing I want to talk about is kind of performance improvements. So we've done a number of things to kind of improve the performance, especially for clients that have very large volumes of data. Um, there's some stuff around APIs and autoloader settings. I just, I won't go through it all, but what I will do is I want to highlight one of the areas. So if I go to the global settings in the system tab, and I come down here, you can see that we actually have a section for system performance options. And these are things that you can opt into that kind of help get more kind of compute out of your system. So the one we added this time was disable the count on the left navigation. So what this is saying is when I come into a record, on the left here, we've got a count. So what this is doing is it's looking for all the notes and counting that up. It's looking for all the contacts associated with this record, counting that up, same organizations. It's looking for all the activities, and all the sub-activities and things like that. They all get added up, filtered, and then put into this list. So if you have lots and lots of these things, that can take a little while and make these kind of pages load a little slower. So, if you're someone with a large amount of volume, you could turn this on. It disables that count, and you're going to get a bit of a performance improvement from that, especially depending on how many people are logging in at the same time and how many the records are looking at. This one as well up here, limit the search scope. If you didn't know about that one, I'll just show you real quick. So what that means is when you do a search in here, so if I'm going to search for water, let's say, when I search that, if I've got 100,000 records in 7 columns, it's going to search 700,000 cells for water. What this one does is you turn that on. Instead of searching all cells by default, it's going to search for the first cell, and then you can change it. So again, it's like instead of every search searching 700,000, now every search is suddenly only searching, 100,000 records. So again, when you times that by 10 or 100 or 1,000 people in the system at a time, you can get some real good performance improvement out of that. So anyway, I just wanted to highlight that this was here. These are some new options that people have. Some of the other new ones around the kind of API and autoloader. We have some options to kind of for how you handle the processes that are going to run, like the template formulas and the workflows and those things. And there's an option to kind of run those in batches asynchronously. And again, that can kind of help you to update things quicker and take a little less time on those processes. So I'm just about going to open up the floor for question and answer. Hopefully you guys have put some stuff in there for me. A couple little fun things I just want to talk about. Well, one is fun, I think. A small thing I just wanted to highlight it. We had some clients let us know that they were having difficulty with the focus on our kind of checkboxes and radio buttons. So we've made it a lot more noticeable, the focus state. So what I'm talking about here is, let's say you're coming in and maybe you're using keyboard only because you have low or poor vision, or maybe using a screen reader or something like that. what you can do is use keyboard only to focus on what you want, and then pick it, right? And so previously these would change color when you focused on them, but it wasn't noticeable enough. So we've kind of bumped up that for everybody. Another thing that we've done recently, I'm just going to touch on a couple things real quick, is with if you're using SMTP Relay with Office 365, we found that some clients were encountering an issue where we'd send the information to Office 365, but then Office 365 would time out. So what we've done is we've added something in here to kind of retry that a couple times to help mitigate that. Beyond that, I guess the last thing to talk about that I think is noteworthy before I go to question and answer is the email broadcast link. So the email broadcast link on user signup pages is gone. This doesn't, it's been deprecated. So it wasn't widely in use. And I don't think many people it'll have effect on many people, but if it is a concern, kind of let us know or ask some questions about it. But what I just want to show you again, it's not email broadcast that's going away. It's if I go into global settings, users, sign up pages, and I have a user sign up page. There used to be two links here. One is the standard link that takes you to the page. So if I grab that, it takes me to the page. And the other one was an email link. Oops, I have to accept first. So this takes you to the page, and here you can see the new version 3 CAPTCHA. And I would do that. The other link, I believe, allowed you to possibly update yourself without logging in to the system, which is a bit of a security concern. But anyway, that only the one link is now supported, and that's the link you would use. So again, we're not getting rid of email broadcast. It's this link that was attached to sign up pages is now deprecated. So having said that, I see there is some questions here. Let's start answering them.
Great. Yeah, we've got lots of questions. I'll start with ones about the T2P tool. So the
Mm.
first one is currently the T2P tool doesn't move files and folders listed under the General tab within Smart Folders. Will the
Mhm.
upgraded T2P tool move files and folders up?
I don't believe at this time, but that's something that just want to take some notes on this while I'm talking to you. So my apologies. All right. So yeah. So right now my understanding is no, it doesn't move files from the smart folders, but I can go talk to the team about that and see if it's something that we want to expand to in the future. Um, it's more works similar to the other in that it'll bring over the same types of things. It's just more that now it brings them over as a project based, and it's bringing over the configuration as opposed to the other one brought over kind of compare the tables and brought everything over. This is going to like I've changed these settings on this page. I'm going to bring those settings over. Um, Hopefully that answers that question. But yeah, I'll look into that. Currently, the answer is it's not bringing over the smart folders, but we'll look into that. Mhm.
Great. And then we have for the new T2P tool, one, multiple people can contribute to the same project, correct? Will
Yes.
changes made by other people be propagated to your new project environment?
Yeah. So here, that's a really good question. So let me go in um, and show you the settings of this. So global settings. If I come down here, um, this is where you see the beta one. So first you enable it, and then you set up your project. So I set up a project here. So again, I set up a project called Project Alpha. I said two people are going to be on this. I've moved it to in progress so that they can start recording. And then whatever these people touch, those configuration pages are recorded. It says, okay, these pages need to be pushed over. So if I went and changed a custom field in my project and someone else pushed a custom field in their project, then whatever the last set of changes are the ones that get promoted. So ideally, the changes are going to be promoted. It's whatever you kind of touched as part of your project is what's going to move over. And we do have a bit of an explanation here as to how that's going to work. So we're grabbing the settings. So we're saying, hey, these are the settings that have changed as part of this project. They'll need to move over. And it will grab whatever the current state of those settings are when it does pull them over.
Okay. And then similarly, how does contributing to multiple projects work? If I go to a screen, make changes to contribute to 2025 release project, and then want to make changes to 2026 release project, how would this be reflected in my environment?
Yeah, so same idea there is whatever you change, it'll bring over the current state of those changes when you publish it. So ideally, for the new one, the new tool, you want to be making changes to specific areas in this tool as part of your project, and you probably don't want any overlap on the same areas, so that not working on the same custom fields. I will say too, while we're doing this, that they can be used simultaneously, right? You can still use the desktop tool. There's no like you can use the desktop tool and you can use this tool. You can use them both in conjunction. There's no kind of issues there. Um, it's just another way of promoting configuration changes that's now in your toolbox. But you don't have to use one or the other. This is not necessarily replacing the existing desktop tool. It's kind of I would say augmenting. It's a new way of moving changes over.
Wonderful. And then we have, can you move files from upload fields in one UTA to another?
Not currently, but I heard that in yesterday's webinar as well. Um, so it is something we can look into. But currently it's just from within one UTA. But given that people brought it up in both webinars, I can hear that there's a demand for this.
And then can I move fields from one upload field to another using a workflow?
Sorry, can we move fields? I mean, you can move. I don't know if I heard the question right. Can you repeat the question?
Can I
Sorry.
move fields from one upload field to another using a workflow?
Uh, I'm not sure, but if you want to transfer files from one upload field to another, you can use the automated one based on time, status, or type. So I'll just show that again real quick. Not sure if I'm answering your question entirely, but if I understood it
I
correct,
think it is files. Sorry, I think I misread
yeah,
that.
fine. Yeah, so the idea is not necessarily through a workflow, but you can do it through automatic file transfer where I can move it from one field to another based on the time frame, status type. So that might be able to achieve what you're trying to achieve.
And then back to the T2P. For the new T2P tool, when making moves to production, which version will be affected? Only the core field or the current used version?
Um, well, I think if you made changes on the version, I would assume the version would be updated. If you made it on the core would be updated. I, I'm not sure if I'm answering that question correctly, but again, what you might want to do is reach out to us and I can kind of connect you with the engineer who is working on it, and we can kind of have a discussion for exactly what you're looking for. But my understanding would be if you made changes on a version, those would be updated to the new version. If you made it on the core, those would be updated to the core. Um,
And then for CAPTCHA, is the list of countries that wouldn't be able to use or access the Google reCAPTCHA publicly available?
no, and because I don't know necessarily which jurisdictions. Um, I personally don't know which jurisdictions may not be able to use it. I do know that we've had reports from people in China that aren't able to access the Google servers, and that's why I've put that down as that use case. Um, Now, the other thing to keep in mind is that we'd have to be able to detect that they are in China. So, sometimes people will be using different technologies to kind of mask their IPs and things like that. Um, you know, so we can only, if we know where they are, then we can kind of serve up the other one. But if they're masking it or doing something like that, it's a best effort around that. So the simple answer is no, I'm not sure which jurisdictions cannot communicate with Google. I do know there have been reports from China, uh, but other than that, I'm not aware.
Great. For the indexing of the sign up pages, that
Mhm.
does that only apply to the sign in, or would that apply to other areas of the system? Example, Internet Exposed, smart folders, etc.
My understanding is it's only the login, sign up, and template pages. So I don't think it would apply to the smart folders and enable smart folders. I can double check, but I think it does not apply there.
And then for the new header, if I have a lot of portals and want to keep them viewable at the top of the screen, is there an option to have them display, or do they only collapse to the more drop down?
Um, with the new header, if you have lots and lots of links up here, it will only do the more drop down. Yeah, the scrolling back and forth is not in the new header. Having said that, you know, this is a trial period right now where we're trying out the new header to get feedback. So, you know, if this is a real sticking point, let us know, and you know, we can take it under consideration amongst any feedback we receive for this.
Great. And then for the rich editor,
Mhm.
is that something that we can already turn on? If yes, where can we do this?
Yeah. So I'm going to caveat this, but yes. So right now, this is a rich text field where I can go and I can enter my stuff. I'll show you this right now. So it's just a special rich text field. You can add it anywhere within your application process. Then people can enter in kind of formatted data. Now, the one caveat I'm going to say is that when you do this and you put these things in, um, there's a very limited use case for the data that's in here. I know everyone looks at it and they love it and they want to put everything in here because I can put my formatting and things in here. But as soon as you try to export it to Excel or we try to generate a PDF with it, there can be a lot of challenges, let's say, um, where things won't display correctly because now you're giving full control to the user to change things. So if I go in here and put a table in here that's 1200 pixels wide, as soon as I do that, we won't be able to generate the documents properly anymore. So I just have to be careful about where you're putting this in. But yeah, you can turn it on and you can use it. It does also have an impact on performance somewhat, but really it's about when you want to try and use it like you wouldn't be able to put this into like a list view, for example. Getting this information into a report becomes very tricky, if at all possible. So yeah, you can turn it on, you can use it, people can fill it in. But I just wanted to caveat with there are a lot of challenges around getting the data out and getting the data to display properly within other areas of the system. So hopefully that answers that question. But yeah, you can just add it um, and away you go. But I would also advocate to sometimes if you really want formatted documents, you might want to use an upload field or another technology as well. Might be better suited. Um, than kind of having formatted HTML formatted data within the system, uh, just because of the challenges of getting that out and reporting that up and generate documents.
All right. Can the notes function also have the rich text?
No, not right now. It's a rich text is a custom field there, although the editor is used in different areas of the system as well. But no, the notes is just plain text at this point.
All right. And then when would it be able to set up a default language in the submission manager L1 types, for example, to show always the Spanish caption in one L1 type and the English language for the other L1 type?
Uh, Currently, I I'm not sure that that's possible. Um, if you wanted all, say, certain level ones to only be visible in a certain language, so let's say I only work, um, my environmental initiatives are only done in Spanish, and I only want people to submit in Spanish. One of the options might be to set up a filter on the list views in the portals, for example, where it's based on my user language. I only show certain ones, or maybe I only allow them to open certain ones in a specific language. Um, Probably not exactly what you're looking for, but that might be another methodology of kind of going after that. Because I think the idea here is you want to only open up certain applications in specific languages. So my approach might be to start would be filtering who can open and who can see those depending on their user language. And then once you open up the page, in case someone gets there somehow where they shouldn't have, display a big message using some SS logic, again, detecting the user's language, and then display a message on there saying, hey, this won't be accepted or something unless you switch to another language. Hopefully that kind of answers that question. But I think there's more discussion to be had in that area around kind of the nuance of what we're trying to do and what the system needs to do, either through configuration or through platform enhancement.
Great. What's the difference between someone who has the role of system administrator and global administrator?
Oh, good question. All right, so let me jump into my profile here for a second, um, and I'm going to go to my edit my roles and access. So um, users within the system have different levels of access. So user access, so someone can log in. Um, we won't worry about API access for this, and then no access. They're just a contact in the system, but they never get log in and use it. And then we have another kind of type of user called a global administrator. So the global administrator is kind of like a super user that has kind of built-in extra functionality and things that they can do. So, for example, I'm a global administrator. That's why in that new header you saw that new icon. Whereas really the rest of the permissions are usually controlled by the roles that I give this person. So, kind of role-based access control, we call that. So down here, for example, I have a role I've created called system administrator, and then I permission that so I can see and do certain things. So these are kind of set up by whoever's configuring your system, and it controls what you can see and do in the system for each of our users. This one is kind of a predetermined super user role um, that allows them to do certain things in the system that only they can do. I don't know if I've answered that correctly, but if you want more depth in that, just ask another question and we'll get to it.
Great. Can you show again where to enable the dev mode? Our team does make a number of system changes, and this would be very helpful as we currently recreate these changes and backup each day for testing.
Now, is it? I wonder if this is related to T2P or if this is related to configuration. Uh, I'm not sure if I understood the question correctly, so let me try and answer it two ways, and then you may have to re-ask it in the chat. So if you're making changes really quickly to fields, I go to Tools, Configuration Mode. So it's just under Tools, Tools Configuration Mode, and then I can click on any custom field, and right from there, I can modify that custom field. I don't have to go and find that custom field that I want to modify. So it's a really handy way to kind of make changes to specific fields within the system. There's also things over here around variable syntax. So if I'm writing syntax, I can try it out. See how bad my syntax is, but I won't even bother actually. But you can try out your different things. So when you're building out your logic, you can test it out on this specific record and see how that's working. And there's a number of different things in here. I believe I can even look at some of the buttons. I can see how where the buttons are and where they came from and where they're going. Um, so there's a whole bunch of things on this configuration mode if that's what the question was asking. You know, it's one of the nicest ways to kind of make modifications in the system. Before we had that, what you would end up doing is if I went to this UTA, for example, I'd go to configuration settings, I would go to grants, which is my level one, and then I go to custom fields, and then I would try and find that field that I want to work with in here based on the name of the caption. If you can see it on the record, it's much easier to do it the other way. And if you're really looking for a field and you can't find it, I don't know if everyone knows this, but there is a general, let me find it now. Uh, yeah, right here, custom fields, where I can actually search across the entire system for a specific custom field. So like, this is cross UTAs, cross everywhere. Again, if you're trying to modify a specific field and you can see it, I would go into configuration mode. If you can't see it, you can go in the way I just showed you, where you go to the configuration settings, the level you're looking for, and then custom fields, and you can search for it. And if you don't even know where it is in the whole system, you can come here to Global Settings System tab and search for it there. So that was an interesting question. I haven't had that one before. But hopefully that answers your question. If not, just rephrase it and ask it again.
Great. I think some of these were answered with our earlier questions. But one is I'm trying out the new header and backup. There are portal pages showing up in the header that weren't there in the previous version. When I go into the settings for the portal page, the display as header link toggle is off. How do I remove the portal page from the new header?
Okay. A lot of things in there. Now, first of all, the new header is beta. So again, we're still working on it. It's more of a there will be bugs, and this might be one of the scenarios where you may have found a bug. But let me kind of walk through it together with you and just see. So we're talking about is if you're going to I'll turn mine on. Let me go turn my header on here. Branding, enable new header, boom. And then I'm going to refresh with Control F5 so I can see it. All right. And then you were saying, so now I'm going to my global system administrator icon here. I'm going to global settings. I'm going to go to the portal for anyone who's never seen this before. And I'll go to my common portal. And you were saying that you've got some links up here and you have display as header link off, but it's still showing up. So I'm going to turn that off right now. Submission manager here. Let's do that. And if I, yes. So yes, you have found a bug. Thank you. So my apologies. That's a bug. We'll get that fixed. But thank you for pointing that out. Actually, we just double check that just to make sure. Maybe I've misread it. Let's double check. What was users portals? Bear with me for 1 second here. Oh, you know what? Actually, I think yeah, display header link. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's a bug. So this setting is currently not is not functioning in the new header. So we'll have to fix that. But thank you. I do appreciate that. Uh, right.
Wonderful. And then we have, how do you set up conditions so that the application formulas run under certain situations?
That one is kind of a question where I'm gonna have to try and defer you to maybe the support team because I feel like that's a more in-depth conversation than I think we want to get into on this call. But it is a very good question, and yeah, I'd encourage you to maybe contact the support team for kind of a more of a one-on-one walkthrough of that one, if that's all right.
Great. I believe the rest of these questions are we've covered already with the T2P discussions,
Mhm.
um, and they had come in earlier.
Yeah,
I
and maybe we'll set up I don't know if I want to set up I'm just speculating here, but if there's a lot of people who want a kind of a deeper dive into T2P, then maybe that's something we can set up, a specific webinar just for that because it does only apply to some of our really, managed dedicated clients, some of our bigger clients. Um, because you need to have that dedicated environment to use the tool. So it might be better to have a subset of or a user group of some of those clients to kind of walk through it in a more detailed and a lengthier back and forth.
Yeah, and then we did get a question about additional costs for dedicated clients. Where would the best place to field that be?
I would say reach out to probably your account manager, your account manager or or the sales or whoever you're kind of normally talking with. That's who I would reach out to, either sales or your account manager if you want to go to a dedicated environment, because they'll be able to kind of work with you on what's involved in that and any kind of fee structure around it.
Great, thank you. I think in the interest of time, we'll wrap it up here, but more questions are always welcome at support or with your account manager. But thank you all for joining. Again, this has been recorded, so you'll get a link next week so that you can watch the webinar back. I hope you all have a great rest of your days. Thank you for joining us.
Appreciate you spending the time with us today.
Bye.
Bye bye.